Greetings, ladies and gentle viewers. I can see you caught me during one of my shirt dilemmas. It's nothing special or personal. I'm just trying to figure out which of these shirts I'm going to wear for my first episode. Why do you ask? Well, there is a big world out there, and there are a lot of people who have autism. And I feel like I want to go out into the real world and find a good, suitable image to show who is a very good person to listen to, especially from an autistic person himself. Yeah, that's right. I am autistic as well. And since we're getting the hang of this, I thought maybe I can at least share my first episode about me. Welcome to episode 1. Aaron F. Davis, the sponge who could dream.
In the early morning of October 15th, 1992, a little miracle for William and Cheryl Davis was born. A baby boy.
When he was born, the very day that he was born, he was chalky white, I'm sorry. And what was most interesting about him was his gaze around the actual birthing room, just staring away. No crying, when the baby's born, it cries. Aaron didn't cry.
I don't know much about when I was younger. Well, all I know is that I am very energetic when I was young.
We couldn't decide on a first name. We kind of first thought we liked the name Zachary, but we weren't really sure. So I decided to pull out the Bible and look at names, and the name Aaron jumped out at me.
I don't remember much about when I was a kid, so I think that might be best for my mom and dad to know.
And I just thought it was a beautiful name. I loved the way it looked. I loved the way it sounded with his middle name, Franklin. And also the history of Aaron in the Bible is that he was Moses' brother and he spoke for Moses. So I brought it up to Bill and I said, well, what do you think about the name Aaron to go with Franklin? And we both liked it, loved it, and that's
very strong.
Very strong name.
The years rolled by quick, but not until the near age of 6 years old did Aaron find himself different from most kids his age.
Aaron learned how to remember the programs that he would watch, the movies, shows. He liked Thomas the Tank Engine, and he would learn the story forwards and backwards, and he could recite it to you. I read a lot of Dr. Seuss books to him, and he could tell you the story. If you missed a word, he would tell you what the word was. So he knew he was learning his ABCs and his 1, 2, 3s very early, at a very early age. And I was really surprised at how much he was picking up, even though he was only barely 2.
Soon, his parents took him to a specialist where he was eventually diagnosed with autism. More specifically, a higher functioning form, better known as Asperger's syndrome.
What was your reaction? What was your initial reaction to his diagnosis of autism?
Wow, probably a little bit of everything. Shock, belief, relief, worry, because just really didn't know what to expect. By then, it was good to have an answer because I had spent so many years trying to figure out on my own what the issues were that he was having, and wasn't really getting a whole lot of support because he was almost 6 by the time we got a true diagnosis, and by then we were pretty sure that's what it was from all the research that I had put into it, and his dad and I talked about it and stuff. So once we knew, then we had a plan.
Yeah, actually, and that was all Cheryl. She was doing all the investigation and things like that. Mine was denial. I denied anything that could be wrong with my son.
Asperger's to me is not something to ignore. Asperger's to me is not exactly something to be afraid about. I mean, when it comes to being autistic and non-autistic, I don't see that myself. I see myself as a regular person. I see myself as any other person would be. Like, I was a regular student, I was a son, I was a brother, and I was, and I still am, me.
It wasn't long before Cheryl and Bill sent their son, along with his younger sister Fallon, off to school. While the two of them surpassed most of their classmates academically, Aaron was a little socially confused about the people around him.
At first, when I came across here, it was really hard for me to get accustomed to. When I went into social gatherings, like either it was Sunday school or just a regular day at school, I practically had been sheltered into my own mind.
I decided I'd go visit my son one day, and my expectation was that I would go in and he'd be amongst many of his friends. But when I arrived, he's sitting all by himself, all alone. And, you know,
Eating his lunch.
it was hard. Yeah, it was hard to see the aloneness of it. That was what was tough.
That's very isolating.
Well, I do remember in elementary school that I was playing games along with the other kids. But most of the time in the playground, I was practically adventuring outside. But I still have my limits. I have to stay with the school limits, school property. I don't want to get lost, I was trying to be a good student. I was reading, I was doing math, I was paying attention to the teacher, paying attention to their voice, just paying attention in general.
Aaron took to school like a fish to water. It was easy flowing.
I hardly ever see myself as a standout among the students. Yes, I was a standout because I never actually stood out in front of everyone else because I was just going to other classes other than other regular students. I was particularly focusing on what is good for me and the school.
School presented Aaron with a lot of opportunities, from simple math to creative literature, but the one he focused on most was art.
One masterpiece I've done is a face out of inorganic shapes. I used a wavy oval as a smile, I used 2 circles for eyes, I used a small trapezoid for a hat, and I used irregular shapes. I mean, it's nothing too garish or anything like that. It's colorful.
He became fascinated in art as it continues to grow even throughout his middle and high school years.
It allowed me to be more creative. It allowed me to think, allowed my brain to be more reactive and more energetic to stay focused on the task at hand.
It wasn't until Christmas morning he opened an account on an art website called Deviant Art, a website dedicated to artists everywhere.
A few other things I should mention is that I also artistic in writing. I wrote down a few ideas, wrote down a few stories. I admit my handwriting was a bit messy when I was younger.
However, art wasn't the only thing Aaron soon came to love. In fact, one important aspect of Aaron started while watching Wheel of Fortune.
I think Barney was really big back then, and by the time evening fell, I was done with all the Barney stories. So I turned on, I was looking for something more educational at night, and it was hard to find anything, so I would turn on Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, and he would start watching it. And that's how he learned his alphabet, because he could see when a contestant would call a letter, and if the letter was correct, then Vanna would turn the letter, so he would hear the name of the letter, and then he would see it, and he would put the two together, so he would learn that way. And so he was learning very, very early and reciting things very early. He knew, like I said, he knew the stories. He could sit in the back seat of the car and recite a whole story for you forwards and backwards.
Yeah, when you go and you drive next to like the UDF, right, United Dairy Farmers, Aaron, at very, 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 very small, was looking at the windows and was actually telling you it's M-I-L-K. And we're kind of going, what? What are you doing? So yeah, that was kind of intriguing. It was surprising. Right.
With his remarkable new talent, Aaron sought out what he wanted to be, which was an actor. So he went to audition for plays, both in and out of school.
A few roles that I did while I was in drama is that I was a camper in a play called Camp Chaos, where The show is basically about a counselor who has been learned that a health inspector is coming up, but a ghost causes a ruckus across the summer camp, and it's up to the campers to find the treasure.
Not fair! Counselors go out having an adventure and we get to sit there doing nothing. It's just not fair!
Another role I did was outside of school was I performed in Godspell. I performed a man named Jeffrey, I believe. He was acting goofy, he was always smiling, he was always energetic. And a couple more a few things I did were The Wizard of Oz, which I performed 2 roles, an Emerald City Citizen and one of the Witch's Guards. Not exactly a very keen role, wouldn't you say? And I performed in Artificial Intelligence, where I performed the Texan millionaire who got knocked out cold thanks to a tuna sandwich. And I performed in Footloose, where I was both a good guy and a bad guy.
You got the picture on the TV? Will this be 5 teams without a picture? I don't know. Tell me the picture's name. Tomorrow. So you're not going to tell me today? I'm telling you, man. Then go ahead. Tomorrow. What time? What time? What time tomorrow? Tell me who's the patient. Now, listen. Who is not the patient? Who is not the patient? Break your heart if you say it some words.
Due to lack of funding and tax levies, the drama department was soon, unfortunately, cut from the high school curriculum. But that didn't stop Aaron's passion for acting. He soon joined a group called Actors, Models, and Talent for Christ, or AMTC for short.
My AMTC audition was really exciting. I was standing in front of the huge line, and I kept reading a tagline for Nickelodeon. I said it with energy, and they said it was really good, and they said they'd call me back.
A few days later, Aaron received a call from AMTC and invited him out for a private interview.
After the call, I was really excited. I was like jumping up and down like an overexcited kid who just won the contest of being a superhero. But tragedy really struck when I came over there a few days ago. I went over there with my mother, and we were sitting there patiently. We were sitting around until the guys came up, and they asked me a couple of questions. They seemed really fine at first, but the one question that blew my mind away: can we change your hair? And the answer to that was no. And what they said, I literally burst into waterfalls out of my eyes, because they said he's not ready. He's not ready to go into the real world to be a part of the acting business. I literally cried in there like a baby inside there. I was so upset. I never thought I would be able to, never be able to be a part of something big. Felt like my life was just ripped away from me, or at least a chunk of my life was at least bitten off from me. It bit off a part of me, and I could hardly swallow that piece of news.
Devastated, Aaron returned home and back to school. But that one moment wouldn't keep him away from his dreams, for his next steps in life are just beginning.